Good evening.
Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Connie Monk, representing Assembly District 4. AB 237 has two parts to the bill. As we know, educators spend money out of pocket on supplies to support students throughout the school year. The first aim of AB 237 is to expand its availability to other educational personnel within the school district. This is going to include counselors and paraprofessionals. The second part of this bill, after talking with the governor on several different times as far as out-of-pocket expenses and how we distribute that money and how hard it is for educators sometimes to get that money, it takes a while. He suggested we do a stipend to cover the cost. That stipend would be done at the beginning of the school year by the department of each school district would determine, and it would depend on how many, of course, educators were in that particular school district. The suggested amount of appropriation is for school year 2019-20, 2020 is $4,500,000. For school year 2021 is the same amount, $4,500,000. And just to let you know, there are no fiscal notes on that. Both Churchill County and Lyon County took off their fiscal notes. Yeah.
Madam Chair, Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association. First, let me thank Assemblymember Connie Monk for her leadership in carrying this piece of legislation. Just one quick clarification on the bill and a possible amendment. So the bill was amended over in the Education Committee before being sent here. One of those amendments was to strike school nurse, school librarians, and paraprofessionals from the list of eligible employees who provide direct or indirect services eligible to access these funds. We would like to ask the committee to consider adding back paraprofessionals. I will say that NSEA has surveyed paraprofessionals across the state, and probably without a surprise, the paraprofessionals who are engaging directly with students in classrooms overwhelmingly do spend money out of pocket on necessary items for their students that they engage. About 85% report spending money out of pocket, with a quarter of them spending over $200 and more than 2/3 of those paraprofessionals spending more than $100 per year.
Okay, so Mr. Daly, if you could point that out to us in the bill, and it's...
Sorry, it's section 3 of the bill.
Thank you. So in section 3 of the bill, so I would need to go back and look at the first. So you would be adding back in who?
Paraprofessionals.
Paraprofessionals.
To the list.
Okay. Typically, Ways and Means doesn't make any policy changes once it's come out of the Education Committee, so depending upon how this would move forward, we'd have to have a further discussion on that. So with this amount, how much would that be per professional? Has that been decided?
Madam Chair, Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association. So the existing language, which is not changed in AB 237, is a maximum of $250 per educator. Currently, most teachers who are able to access and max per their district are receiving less than that. I think this past year in teachers in Clark County, it was closer to about $120. In Washoe County, maybe $170 per teacher. I'm not sure about the smaller school districts. I think with the increase in the number of eligible employees, along with, if the legislature agrees with the governor's recommendation to increase the overall line, there would likely be a small increase on average per eligible employee.
And this would change it from the current procedure of reimbursement to actually a stipend. So what would be the accountability measures on the money?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What we talked about basically was we feel teachers are professionals, just like doctors, dentists, nurses, and that many of them already are, returning in receipts, waiting 2, 3, 4 months to even get reimbursed $70, $75. The stipend was suggested by the governor. He felt that teachers are professionals and that they could be trusted to have the money at the beginning of the year, whether it was a card, whether it was in their check at the beginning of the year. That's why we came up with stipend.
So no accountability measures then? Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could on that. So NSEA this spring surveyed over 1,500 current active teachers. We asked about out-of-pocket expenses. The average in terms of these 1,500 or over 1,500 respondents spent $704 out of pocket. The average reported reimbursement, which includes a large number who just didn't put in and report zero, but the average reimbursement reported is $73. If the legislature decides to move from this reimbursement to the stipend up front, those monies we believe would be reportable as income. And so, you basically have that level of built-in accountability where we know that on average, teachers are spending significantly more money than $250 on supplies. It's very possible that there would be individual teachers who don't spend whatever that amount ends up being under $250, but it would be a very few number of those, and in likelihood we would probably see educators spending more money out of pocket if they had this stipend. More money overall.
All right. Dr. Titus, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So on the bill itself, Section 6, Line 4, on the amended version, it says any money remaining in the account at the end of the fiscal year does not revert back to the state general fund, and the balance must be carried forward. The department may award a grant from the account to one or more nonprofit organizations which supply school supplies. How will that be set up, and is that typical that we would just have a stipend and then it doesn't revert back if you don't use it and that's going to stay there? Do we build on that every year, or how's that going to work? If you might explain that to me. Thank you.
Through the chair, Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association, to Assemblymember Titus. In reality, I don't think that there will be a balance any longer if we move towards the stipend. I think that as this bill has evolved initially, the thinking was to include any balance remaining as potentially going to a nonprofit to distribute for school supplies. But as the bill has evolved to include the stipend component, if that's in the bill, there's just not going to be a balance in the program at the end.
Okay, because it's still there under that amendment. I'm just clarifying.
If I may. So if I may, so I believe this came in because part of the conversations we were having is up here, at least in the counties where they have them, like in Washoe County, we have, I'm going to say it right, the educational, help me someone with the nonprofit, the big warehouse, and they stock school supplies, and then it's school supplies from the community that come in, and then they let teachers come in and grab school supplies. So the thinking was, like, especially in Washoe County, where we probably could have a better track record of the use of these dollars and how we're getting to these dollars, if for some reason the teachers of the school support staff didn't exhaust them, would it make sense is it fair for us to contemplate, if you will, that certain nonprofit educational organizations that are pulling in supplies for teachers, would it be, you know, a consideration for us to let them have access to those dollars to kind of help leverage the purchase that they're doing? So I am going to look up the name of the organization because I can see it. I've been in the warehouse. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I just cannot remember the name right now.
And I understand. So, Mr. Daly, how many teachers and support personnel are we talking about in the state? Totally. Because at $250 apiece and $4.5 million in a year, that would cover about 18,000 stipends.
Correct, and I think we're probably talking, with the addition of other educators, probably 22 to 24,000
So this,
eligible. And so it wouldn't end up being all the way to $250. It would be a number less than that.
so it would depend on the number of folks you would get a count and then just go from there.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, and Madam Chair, it would also depend on each school district too, how many educational personnel were in each school district also, but I think we figured about 180 if we included everyone.
All right. Other questions from other committee members? And this is a general fund appropriation. It is not in the budget, correct? Correct. Okay. That was an affirmative. Okay. Thank you. With that, committee members, any other questions? Seeing none? All right. This will be the hearing for Assembly Bill 237. We'll go ahead and open it up for those in support of Assembly Bill 237. Seeing any support?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Ruben Murillo, President of the Nevada State Education Association. Going to keep this short and simple. We support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here in support of Assembly Bill 237? Seeing none, any in opposition of Assembly Bill 237? Seeing none, anyone in neutral? We'll go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 237, and this one will be one of the ones that we'll have to wait on to see where we actually are when we get our final accounting done, and we can go from there. So, but now that we've had the hearing, when it comes time to address it, it will be easy to address. So moving on to the next bill that we have this evening. Speaker, did you want to address?